Polo just kind of blends in anywhere, doesn't it? Like, you can take it to Tesco's, to the weekly shop, you can take it to a fancy hotel and spa, and no one's going to bat an eyelid. It's classless, in a good way. The Volkswagen Polo is probably second only to the Ford Fiesta, maybe the Vauxhall Corsa when it comes to household names in the car world. Maybe the Volkswagen Golf as well, but you know what I mean. The odds are most of you would have learnt to drive in one of these or have one of these as your first car. Solid build quality, strong safety credentials. It ticks all the boxes for young drivers and their parents. Well, now we have this new VW Polo, updated VW Polo. So I'm going to run you through all of the changes, and then we'll also have a wee little look at engines, practicality, driving and technology as well. But in the meantime, like and subscribe, please. Thank you very much.
The 6th generation VW Polo was revealed to the world back in 2017. Here we are, 5 years later, and the car is about due for its mid-life facelift. Except Volkswagen thought it more appropriate to give its evergreen small car how do we say this? A bum lift.
Now, while the front doesn't really look that different, there is a tweaked lighting signature, and actually on some models there is a full width light bar along the front and some different bumpers. But around the back, this is where I think it's most recognisable if you're stuck behind one in traffic. But the lights here used to be on the outside of the tailgate, and actually when you open the boot, it makes a nice wide open space when you open it up. Should we talk about the boot while we're here? Kill two birds with one stone and all that. Now look, this is a facelifted version, so the size hasn't changed. It is still 351 litres. So it is still 10% smaller than the VW Golf, but still bigger than a Fiesta. So actually, it's worth checking that you do need the extra space before you go over to VW and you go, I'd rather have a Golf because it's bigger. Because this isn't as mini as it once was. I do have one annoyance, and that is when the boot floor is at its lowest, it's quite a big drop down, which can be difficult with luggage. And also when you drop down the rear seats like this, it's quite a big step underneath there. It doesn't go completely flat, which bugs me. Right, push the seats up like so, and nothing much has changed back here. Can we also just take a moment to appreciate how wide these doors open, please? Because if you're throwing kids back here, or in my case throwing sausage dogs back here, it's pretty decent. And hey, if you're an adult sat back here, it's not too bad either. You've got decent legroom, decent headroom. It's not far off a Golf, not too shabby.
Now, those of you with a bit of insider knowledge might be shouting at the screen saying, yeah, but it's just a Skoda Fabia underneath and that car is cheaper, so... Well, hold your horses, noddy know-it-all, because there may be less in it than you might expect. In entry-level life trim like we have here, the Polo is just £8 a month more than the Fabia on identical terms. Would you pay an extra £8 for a VW badge? Well, that's up to you. It's this life model that makes the most sense, actually. LED lights, alloy wheels, air conditioning and a fully digital dash, as well as safety kit like city emergency braking and lane assist. Style, R-Line and GTI models up the kit count, but as always, everything you need to know is on carbuyer.co.uk.
It really doesn't feel like a boggo base spec super mini. Digital dials, standard, yes. They're not as configurable as more expensive VWs or more expensive Polos, and the side bits are saved for temperature and the petrol, but it does feel like a flashy moment in a car that costs around 20 grand, And then you've got this central screen, which basic trims don't come with sat-nav, but it does come with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so you can just use the maps from that. And all in all, it's really nicely laid out and really nice and easy to use. You do have these shortcut buttons down the side, which are touch sensitive. So while you're driving, it's quite easy to accidentally press the wrong button. Same can't be said for what's going on down here. Hello, twisty air conditioning. I like that. I like it, but it's not considered premium. So actually, if you step up and you go for the more expensive Polo, these get switched out for, yes, you guessed it, touchy slideys. and climate control, so then you just select the temperature. But I don't know if you're like me, but I know me, and I know my body, and I know if I want something hotter, colder, etc. I don't need to be told it's exactly 22 degrees, so I think I would just much rather have that. But overall, quality, very nice. The fits, the finishes is all really quite lovely. I mean, you do have some scratchy plastics, but I mean, you've got to expect that in a Super Mini like this that's been built at a cost. And you only really notice those because everywhere else is such high quality, you know? It's quite nice, isn't it?
Volkswagen has slimmed down its trim structure of late, and the same is true of its engine range. There are just 4 to choose from, and all are petrol. There's no hybrid or electric models, and certainly no diesel. We'd steer clear of the most basic 1-litre engine as it doesn't have a turbocharger. It's fine in town, but you're going to need to wring its neck to get anything out of it on faster roads. At the other end of the scale is the flagship GTI, a 2-litre engine with more than 200 brake horsepower. Okay, it's no Fiesta ST in the handling stakes, but it's still a proper little pocket rocket.
Right, your best bet is to go for one of the 2 mid-spec engines. Now, both of those have still got the 1-litre 3-cylinder setup, but both of them are a little bit more powerful and they have a turbo, so they feel a lot quicker and they just feel more suited to kind of day-to-day driving. Now, we have here the less powerful of the 2. This has got 94 brake horsepower, and I know that might sound a little bit puny, but actually, I mean, I don't see why you would need any more, especially if it's just you in the car. You pop into the office, pop into the shops. That's pretty peppy. 0 to 62 takes 10.8 seconds, but actually the fun part is really revving it out because the engine gives a nice little thrum to it, you know. The manual gearbox is nice and precise. It's got a nice bit of weight to it as well. I mean, it's not as fun as a Fiesta, but it's still pretty fun. Now, there is a DSG automatic gearbox option if you find that you spend a lot of your time in stop-start traffic, but I don't know if it's just me. I find in a car like this, I just prefer a manual gearbox, just prefer the interaction. So I wouldn't bother spending more money on having an automatic unless you absolutely need it. But otherwise, the Polo, like it always has been, feels like one of the more grown-up small cars. Like it's really quiet for a car of its type. The suspension is nice and refined. I mean, it's coping with the lumps and bumps in the road really well, even on these dinky 15-inch wheels. It's a lovely drive. It's comfortable. It's sophisticated. It's classy. Like me.
That lack of electric or hybrid options I mentioned earlier doesn't do the Polo any favours when it comes to running costs. But this is still a small car, so it's never going to cost the earth to run. Our favourite engine, this turbo 1-litre with a 94 brake horsepower, manages, or so VW say, 54.4 miles per gallon, with CO2 emissions of 118 grams per kilometre. That's actually better than the less powerful non-turbo engine. And while it pretty much matches its conventionally powered rivals in this regard, it's trounced by the Toyota Yaris, which can run around in town using only its hybrid battery. Still, neither the Toyota nor the Volkswagen will make much of a dent in your company car tax bill. You want to look at fully electric super minis like the Peugeot E208 or the Renault Zoe for that.
But a bit like its brother, the VW Golf, the Polo just kind of blends in anywhere, doesn't it? Like, you can take it to Tesco's, to the weekly shop, you can take it to a fancy hotel and spa, and no one's going to bat an eyelid. It's classless, like in a good way.
Which leads us very neatly to our Dealmakers and Dealbreakers. It's like we just said, the Polo just has an air of sophistication in this class that just puts it one notch above its rivals. And that's only helped by the level of kit on offer. You might not get sat-nav on the base car, but the big screen and the digital dials help give it a high-tech feel. This latest Polo is about the same size as the Golf was 20 years ago. The boot's a good shape and the rear doors open nice and wide. On the downside, there's no hybrid or electric options. And while no model is hugely expensive to run, company car drivers or electric car evangelists should look elsewhere.
But really, that's it. I mean, yes, you can argue that the Skoda Fabia, which we do also love, is cheaper on the monthlies, and then the Ford Fiesta is slightly sharper to drive. And yes, Peugeot offer basically every engine option under the sun, including EV and diesel. But very few come close to offering the all-round appeal that the Polo has. I mean, remembering what I said earlier about it blending in to the supermarket and also in a fancy hotel, I mean, that's pretty bang on, isn't it? It blends in so well that it's basically invisible. And I kind of like that.
If you're on the hunt for a car like this, then why not watch our Skoda Fabia review or our small cars playlist. Thank you kindly for watching.